Welcome to Beyond Belief podcast. Get ready for some engaging conversation and captivating stories. Whether you are here to learn something new, have fun, or just chill out, let's get started. Today we are exploring Andean cosmology and Elemental Dragon Rites. Get ready for an adventure into ancient wisdom and mystical traditions. I'm Sabine, your host, and today I have a great guest with me. Rian, welcome.
Hi, Sabine. Nice to be here.
Since a very young age, Rian has always been curious about things beyond what we can see and touch in the world. When he discovered Reiki and teachings from ancient traditions, his interest grew even more. This led him to learn about healing and participating in special ceremonies. Rian has learned special rituals and teachings from sacred cultures in South Africa and South America. He is also a Reiki master teacher. He is the founder of Elemental Dragon Rites and teaches many energy systems like Munayki Rites and Shanti. Sorry for my French. I have difficulties to pronounce that one. And Angel Link, and many more, but he will explain to you. Rian's mission is to help people take charge of their spiritual journey. He helps them to realize their unique power, spiritual growth, and evolution. But before we dive in today's discussion, I'm excited to announce my upcoming spiritual retreat in Bali from June 16 to 22. Don't miss it. And another exciting workshop is upcoming on animal communication. It's starting on April 20. I have also another upcoming accelerated channeling class. You can find the detail on my website or below the video. And back to the popular demands for the second consecutive year is our light language attunement class. Now let's embark on another episode of Beyond Belief. Rian, please, can you share with us how was your life before you entered into your spiritual path?
Hi, Sabine. Once again, thank you for having me on Beyond Belief. It's a great honor to be sharing here with you and the audience. Life for me was very young before all of this started. From a very young age, actually, I was very connected to nature spirits and to the elements around me. So I can't really remember what life was like before the magic and the mystery. But if I fast forward into my early adulthood, there's definitely a big difference between my teenage years and my adulthood years with regards to the type of path that I was walking. So in the early ages, at the age of 13, I started channeling. I was lucky to have a friend whose mother...
13 years old, right?
Yes, 13
For the
years.
audience, to make sure it's 1 3. Okay.
And I was lucky to have a friend whose mother was a psychic, and she at the time noticed my ability, and she guided me with some tips and tricks on how to master it and be able to work with it a bit better. Then I went into more of a pagan type practice throughout my teenage years, studying up on crystals, tarot, spellcraft, kind of what we call kitchen witchery. You know what how you can make magic with what you have in your kitchen. And then those are my spiritual practices throughout my younger years. Obviously, internet was around. I'm not that old, but it was very limited back in the day as to what you could find online. So it was a lot of digging and exploring and research in trying to put my practice to work. Then at the age of around 19, I decided to attend an open group, a meditation circle. And it was quite frightening at the time because up until now, I've been doing everything solo or maybe just with a couple of friends who was also interested in the mystical world. So now I'm going out with strangers and putting myself out there to see what I can find. And the leader of the meditation circle was a very interesting gentleman. And it turned out that he was a Reiki healer, but he was also an initiate in the sacred Andean tradition, which up until this point I never heard anything about. Across my studies of magical arts and so on, you come across the word shaman here and there, but there was not much info available because, most of it is sacred traditions, oral transmissions of the information, so you don't get to read up as much as you do now than you did 15 years ago. So I attended a couple of his meditation circles. He was a fantastic channel. My God, the messages that he could channel was really beyond this world, and that was very fascinating. Up until this point, I never used my channeling in a situation like that to guide groups through meditations or connect to other beings for other people. It was all just personal work, some psychic readings and things like this. So this method of using gifts to heal was new for me. So I decided to take on a Reiki course, and I had my first Reiki attunement.
How old were you at that time when you got your first Reiki attunement?
I was 21. Just about, almost, just before I turned
Around, let's say around. Just to get an idea to the audience. Since when?
Yeah, so this was 2011, in January, actually, 12th of January. I'll never forget the date. And that started off a catapult of learning and studying and initiations that I was not aware of would happen, I could say, at that point in my life. So 12th of January I did Reiki. In March that year, I had my first initiation with the Andean tradition. Why did I have an initiation with the Andean tradition? Because I was trying to escape having to initiate with the African tradition. So around the same time that I was introduced to this meditation group, I started a new job. And in this new job I was at, one of my colleagues was a Sangoma, a South African shaman. And this was very interesting that at the same time I meet an Andean shaman, I'm also introduced to an African shaman. So I was like, okay, let's see, let's explore, let's see what spirit is bringing across my path. So I went for a consultation with this colleague of mine. And in the African tradition, we use shells and bones for divination. So she read the bones for me. And there's a specific bone that most healers carry within their auricle, which is used to see whether or not a person has the calling, as we call it in the African tradition. So have the calling to be a healer. And this shell landed straight in the middle, wide open, so meaning the open side of the shell to the top, and the pointed edge of the shell pointing directly at me. So that was a sure sign that
was very clear.
yes, that I had the call, and I got nervous. I got scared for multiple reasons, mainly because the African tradition has a bad reputation in South Africa specifically. Witch doctors and black magic and all of these things. And being raised in a Christian family, this was a big no-no, stay away.
Yeah, don't touch that.
So I thought, okay, I've met this Andean tradition now as well, so maybe if I go and initiate into this tradition, which is a bit lighter, the ceremonies are a lot more energetic and not as ritualistic as the African tradition, maybe my ancestors would be happy, and I just continue with that path. So that's how I ended up initiating into the Andean tradition. It is a beautiful journey with them, and I went on to initiate the first level in March. shortly after I did my second Reiki attunement after my integration period. And then I discovered the Angel Links. The Angel Links is a method from the Lightarian Institute in the US where you are attuned to 4 archangels and a seraph angel. And during these attunements, I got introduced to a unicorn. So this unicorn came forward when I was working. I think it was with Archangel Michael. This unicorn came forward and wanted to activate within me. So thankfully, again, I always had fantastic teachers. I'm very grateful for that. The teacher knew how to do a light body integration. So she took me through a unicorn light body integration, and this unicorn was able to, with all of these energies mixing around with me, trying to integrate and learn as much as I can. And we're only halfway through this year. Then I attended one ceremony with the Andean shamans. It's an offering ceremony that typically gets done once a month over the full moon. And during the cleansing process, just before going to actually build the offering, an elder gentleman approached me and he said to me, "Hi, do you know that you have a unicorn with you?" And I was like, "Okay, wow, someone saw my unicorn." Until now you're kind of in your head, and you're a bit crazy. But I thought, okay, it's quite cool that someone has recognized this energy around me. So I said, yes, it's actually quite a new connection. And he said to me, yeah, but it's not complete. I was ominous. Who's this scary old man giving me messages about my unicorn now? So I said, okay, and we went on, we finished the ceremony. And after we burned the offerings, he approached me again and he said, so shall we have a look at what unicorn wants to still do with you? And I said, okay, sure, let's have a look. So we went aside, we connected, I called forward my unicorn and like, okay, what do you want to do? And unicorn came forward and using its horn, it entered into each of my energy centers, kind of like a key unlocking a padlock.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I see
So
what you
one
mean.
by one, the unicorn starts going into my energy centers, unlocking each of them. And as it unlocks, it just opens up and beautiful energy is flowing through it until we got to my navel. As unicorn entered its horn into my navel, it blasted open, huge energy pouring out, and then this dragon came down.
This is why he said this is not complete, right?
Exactly.
That was the meaning. Okay.
Correct. So that's dragon
And the dragon came out. Okay.
knocked me out. It was quite an intense energetic
I
experience.
can imagine.
Thank God I was surrounded by a whole bunch of healers and shamans who was able to help me ground and settle back. And I was quiet. I packed up, I went home, driving home. I'll never forget, it was pouring down with rain, as it can have, in Johannesburg, we can have massive thunder showers. It was one of those typical pouring down late afternoon showers. I was just quiet, and I'm sitting with this dragon inside of me, talking to it. It's like, what's going on? What happened? What are you here to do? And dragon just said, it's okay. Just relax, calm down. I will guide you. I will show you. Don't worry. Okay, so now we've got a dragon. Thank you. So this was probably around July, August.
Mm-hmm.
Around this time as well, as winter time in South Africa, I started having a lot of dreams with my ancestors. And it was very clear that even though they were happy that I've initiated into the Andean tradition, that they still wanted me to do the initiation into the African tradition. I was quite nervous. I consulted with my teacher, and it was almost as if I had to balance the calling. It's fine that I want to follow the path of the Andean tradition, but I was born in Africa. That's where my roots are. So I needed to ground it there. So I decided to go and initiate with the African tradition as well. And so I started my initiation with them in the winter. And I did multiple ceremonies with the Sangomas up until the weekend before I came to Dubai. So
Okay,
busy
then you
year.
was fully ready to land in Dubai with all the knowledge and the initiation you just received,
Exactly. So it
which
was
is
from
not a coincidence.
January
We know
until
that.
November. It was just learn, 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 initiate, get battered with energy, and then goodbye.
Yeah.
Go and integrate, go and learn, go and experience what this is. It was difficult. It was really hard because especially the shamanic traditions, they are very much community focused. You know, your ceremony is all about getting together, bringing the community together, being in ceremony together. And here I am in a foreign country with no one around me, none of my community with me, just me, my medicine bundle, and my altar. And that's it. I
How did
was
you cope with that new situation, let's say like that?
it was challenging. First, there was a lot of anger and resentment towards spirit. Why did you remove me from this? Introduce me to this just to take me out.
You
And
kick me
after
out just after giving
exactly,
me the knowledge. You initiate me and then now kick out. Bye.
exactly. But then after some time, you know, the rebel calms down. And I realized that it was a time for me to integrate and learn, understand what it is that I've been through, and grow on my own, and not having to rely on a community, on other people for my spiritual development and growth. Although it sounds now like that happened in an instant, but that took a while for me to come to that realization. And so I just, continued sitting with my altar every day, meditating, connecting to the lineages, and just channeling information. And thankfully, I had this dragon companion as well. With
You was not alone. You had your own community somehow.
exactly. So maybe physically I was a
Yeah.
little alone, but
But
energetically
in the
I had a
astral, yeah,
huge
you had a huge
support.
community with you.
Exactly. So yeah, that's how I ended up over here in Dubai, and I've been here since 2011 November. And yeah, that's the short story of how I got to where I am.
That's quite amazing and very interesting story, especially balancing with the shamanic African tradition, which are very strong. And I know because I've tried in the past. When you have tried different things, you can have the knowledge and take what is useful for you mainly. Because you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in every teachings, every learning we encounter in our lives, rites, tradition, initiation, just studying, they have many levels of it. I've noticed that always we will take only what is useful for our soul. They have like a broadcast of information. It's like the web, and people are connected to certain things, and you go, you navigate, and you just take what you need, which is amazing. And I think that's the best way for each and everyone to practice that way, not going only one side of it and not discovering the other side, because it's about
Absolutely.
polarities always and balance.
Absolutely. It's not just learning as much as you can, but it's also finding different teachers. And like I've mentioned, I'm so grateful for having had amazing teachers throughout my life, people who were genuinely there to see me develop and me step into my own power, and not just trying to keep me there as a student. It was always about the empowerment. And they taught me many valuable lessons, which in many other things that I studied, they never even touched on those types of subjects. And it's not even about how to work with energy or how to do ceremony, but it's the small values of empowering others, empowering yourself. So yeah, very grateful for that. But to get back to the point you're making, yes, I studied, as you were, in 2011 probably about 7 different modalities and initiated into 2 lineages. That was in just 10 months. But after that, I went on because now I was in this hunger to learn. And over the course of about 2-3 years, I studied over 40, 50 modalities. Some very short, just flush empowerments, others with longer courses, like the Kutumo healing, the Ashati system, etc. And eventually I got bored because although I was getting a lot of different perspectives, I eventually realized it's all just the same. It is.
Which is true.
It
Which
all
is
comes
true.
back to, or maybe it's not the same, but it's a piece of the puzzle of the same picture.
The roots are the
So I
same.
stopped studying for a very long time because I was like, what's the point? Anyway, but yes, with regards to the Andean and the African tradition, very distinct. The Andean tradition comes from the high mountains in Peru. So they are very close to heaven. And so the practices there are mostly energy-based. It's all about your energetic relationship with the world around you, with the elements, with the community, with the mountain spirits and the nature spirits. And that's how we work. We have our medicine bundle, which is not actually medicine. It's stones and leaves and twigs and little special things that just energetically connect us to a certain memory or place to draw energy from. Then we've got the African tradition, which lives down on the earth, not up in the mountains, in the bush, in the jungle. And here, because of the closeness to the earth, there's a lot more connection to the earth, to the plants, to the medicine of the earth. Working with animal medicine, working with plant medicine. And I'm not referring to hallucinogenics or ingesting plants. No, I'm talking about working with the vibration of plants, with smudges, with steaming, with baths of flowers. And it's a very ground, earth-based practice, where the Andean tradition is a very light, energy-based practice. So having the two balance each other out, it kind of gave me, the one gave me what the other doesn't have. So in the Andean tradition, they need to work with plants to lower their vibration to reach to the earth level. In the African tradition, they need to work with plants in the other way to raise their vibration to reach the sky level.
And
So
then you
now
arrive in the middle.
I work with both. So it's a very beautiful balance to have, but it's not an easy path to walk. Because when you have this calling, when you are dragged into this almost against your own free will, it is as much a burden as it is a blessing, because you become of service to the planet. And there's not much choice about that. You can decide to not listen
On the
to
mental
calling.
level, on the soul level, you choose it.
Yes, correct. On a conscious level,
Yeah.
we can decide to ignore it and turn away from it and not follow it, but that will have consequences, unfortunately. So to be in flow with it and accept it and learn to live with it is a much healthier approach, because it doesn't make you crazy. But it is a beautiful path, although it's not for everyone. It can become quite daunting, a bit lonely at times, because you are always working on different levels of energy, so people just can't always keep up, but you learn to live with that.
What I wanted to say, and you just mentioned, I was thinking about that just when you said it's not for everyone, which is true, because you need quite a good level of wisdom. You cannot enter into that. This is my own feeling. If you don't have enough wisdom, it's really difficult to embrace that type of path and initiation. I don't think that someone who just land here with no wisdom, because the soul needs a certain experience also to come back and learn certain things, that would be really, like you said, a real burden.
Yes, true. And in people who are called to do this work, like I said, even though it is a burden, it's a huge blessing as well, because you learn to walk the balance between the responsibility that you have and a normal life. You don't have to go and sit in a hut or in a mountain and just be Mr. Shaman all the time.
Like that.
I always say it's very easy to be spiritual when you're surrounded by spirituality all the time. You know, it's easy to be spiritual if you're in a retreat or in a meditation center or surrounded by
Correct.
other spiritual people. But it's not that easy to be spiritual when you're in a normal life. And that's the real test of spirituality for me is, can you maintain your connection? Can you maintain your level of awareness in a modern life? So yeah. That is the challenge.
And that's where the best learning is, because imagine if we were coming here on Earth. I'm speaking about, let's say, light worker. I will not enter in detail with starseed and all that stuff today. Let's make it simple. When we choose that type of path on the soul level, I would say, like you mentioned, is a test, but mainly how boring it would be for a soul like you who choose that before incarnation to do like a monk. And you are surrounded in a monastery like every monk. This is the easy life. This is a very easy life. That's where the difficulties is coming and where you learn the most, and you cannot get bored when you really have to mix yourself with the population, which not everyone has been initiated to that. And you need to somehow play with the energy, raising, lowering, turning left, right, etc. That's also the beauty of it for me, honestly.
Yes, very true. Although that is also what makes it more challenging. And if you are not focused, it's easy to also step off the path for a while, and then life beats you around a bit until you get your act together and you continue. It's a bit of a roller coaster sometimes.
Yeah, amazing story. Ryan, would you like to share, please, with the audience? You don't teach that. I mean, it's not even a teaching, it's an initiation. You don't initiate people, right?
Yes and no. So I do not take them through traditional initiations within the lineages. However, I do teach the Munayki, which is an initiation. And this is I wouldn't say simplified, but it is a more westernized form of the traditional initiations. So the Munayki brings 9 rites. There is a 10th rite, which I'll discuss in a bit. But it's essentially, there was Dr. Alberto Villoldo, who is an anthropologist, and he spent years and years studying with the Quero shamans up in the Andes of Peru. And after years of study and understanding their tradition, he put together the Munayki Rites, which are 9 initiations that have been taken from different lineages in the Andes, even some lineages in the Amazon of Peru. And they are specific initiations or energy connections to lineages, to sacred sites, for protection and for connecting us to guiding spirits of higher vibration. And these initiations are the same connections you would receive in a traditional initiation process with a shamanic lineage. However, it is across multiple lineages, the Munayki. So there are initiations in the lineages I'm in that you will not receive in the Munayki, and there are some that you will receive. And similarly, in my lineage, there are initiations from the Munayki that I would never have received within my lineage because they are from other areas in the Andes. So this I do teach, the Munayki. And then the Elemental Dragon Rites is also an initiation, which I pass on. It is not an attunement.
I
For the
wanted to
audience.
ask you about this, and that's great. You speak about this right now, because I had the question, on here on my lips, and I was just waiting the moment when I can ask for you to explain to the audience what is exactly the dragon rites. And you just said it was there. I was ready to.
I will explain. So let me touch first on the difference between an attunement and an initiation for the audience, for those who don't know. So an attunement, we have a light body, we have an energetic body. So we're not just physical, we've got our mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, and all of this from the physical up to the spiritual body makes up our energetic body. When we go through an attunement, like Reiki or prana, etc., our energy body gets aligned to a specific frequency. So if I, for example, receive a Reiki attunement, the Reiki master will open up my channels and align my energy channels with the universal life force energy for me to be able to channel the Reiki energy. So this is an attunement. So it is our energy body being taught how to access energy from outside for channeling. An initiation is the opposite. It's a start, the word initiate, right? During an initiation, two things happen. First, you are connected to lineage. So whoever your teacher is, you get connected to their lineage of the ancestors, of the energetic spirits that guide and support them, everything that they're connected to. And then a seed gets planted. So it is an awakening from within that happens. And it's an awakening of your power that happens. So when an attunement aligns you to channel a power from outside of yourself, an initiation is an awakening of your own energy, of your own knowledge and wisdom. And it goes in on a cellular, physical DNA level, not just an energetic level. And it starts to release traumas, release memories from your DNA, and through that also activate your soul abilities and the abilities and gifts that are within your DNA from your ancestry, from your physical ancestry as well. So it's a spiritual activation as much as a physical activation. And that's the difference between attunement and initiation.
Thank you for mentioning that, because they have often confusion. Even myself, I hear that very often. People don't know, not everyone of course, but many still don't know the difference between an attunement and initiation.
So that it is important for people to know, and that's why whenever I teach, I always explain this difference, because also an attunement is something you can kind of leave and forget about and never work with it again. It's like a radio. You learn how to dial a specific station, that's it. You can change the station, you can switch off the radio, it's not going to do anything. But an initiation, because it's an activation from within yourself, if it's something you don't work with, you're not getting rid of it. It's there. So you can either consciously work with it, or you can ignore it and then deal with the consequences, because this energy is still going to start knocking things loose, bringing out traumas, releasing gifts, releasing energies. And if you're not going to consciously work with it or be aware of it, it's going to cause a bit of havoc. So it's always a point of caution before you take an initiation. Be prepared that it's something you're signing up for life. It's not just a, oh, maybe try this out situation.
Yeah, that's correct. You know, when you said that, I remember, because you are the one who brought me to do the level 1 and 2 in Andean tradition. I realized how it shifted me after, but the responsibility also. I knew somehow, and I was ready when I did it, but I didn't imagine, because from the outside, it seems something easy. And I remember when I went there, you are in nature and you have the shaman who is doing all the rites. And the first few days, fasting for me was the most horrible things. Today, I can do it easily. But at that time, stay silent was not a problem, because I could enter in myself because I was channeling already, then it was easy. But fasting was the worst. And through all these rituals, even when they were doing the fire ceremony and everything, a part of me, and I think this is important to understand, a part of me was understanding what was going on. But the little girl in me, and when you say it's bringing trauma and everything, the little girl in me was so angry, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I was divided and open, cracked open, let's say this way. And that was the most difficult time for me. And that's when you realize how deep it is. And I'm explaining that for the audience, because when you explain, you pass by already. Then today you are master and it seems easy. But me who passed by, and I still remember some of those periods, I could not imagine how difficult it could be, because I forgot. And that's very important to notice that I forgot some of my trauma, or let's say I denied, better words to say. And when my inner child came out, it was an inner child who stayed with anger, yes, and hunger too, because I was coming from very poor family on my mother's side. And many times we didn't have bread, we didn't have anything in the fridge or in the cupboard. And when he asked us to fast, oh my goodness. And it was a very long period, not only a few hours, I remember. I was like ready to kill everyone, because fasting for me was not the fasting like for everyone else. Everyone felt easy after a few hours. For me was like, you bring me back into my own ship where I'm born, and I cannot accept that. But this was the little girl in me speaking. And this is why I mentioned this particular part about me, because I found this the best example for people. If you had difficult childhood and everything, be ready. Be ready if you want to enter in that type of things. Don't go just like that, because it's not for everyone. When you are in, you must deal with. No choice.
Yep.
And nobody will come to, oh, my love, it's okay. Stop the fasting. No. You continue and you go through. You go through your shit. Let's say this way. And like you mentioned, they have a huge difference between the initiation and yeah. Wow, such a beautiful story. Ryan, would you mind to explain also what is exactly the Dragon Rites? Because if I remember, you teach that, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
okay.
So,
Let's go.
Elemental Dragon Rites, it's something that was born last year, only 2023, after 12 years of a personal, almost secret relationship with Dragon. I didn't share with many people about this dragon that I was walking around with. Some people recognized it, noticed it when we were in sessions together, and I will work with the energy. People who are more sensitive, I would say, would recognize the dragon energy. But everything the dragon taught me, I kind of kept to myself for a long time. Even though dragon told me 13 years ago that the time will come for you to share this with other people. So throughout my years of so after I came to Dubai, I traveled back to South Africa. I traveled to Peru a couple of times to undergo more initiations. And I would come back to Dubai and be kind of alone. I started building up a bit of community here, people like you, who I introduced a little bit to the tradition as well. We did ceremonies together, etc.
I remember that.
It was still me. I had no one on a higher level of initiation with me in the community to guide me, support me, help me. So it was kind of me in spirit, my medicine bundle and my guides. And so as hard as that seems, it was actually a huge blessing, because I got to learn so much more than other people, because I was getting teaching directly from spirit. I was getting teaching directly from my dragon. I remember many times I will be taught things during meditation or when I'm working on someone. Either the mountain spirits will come forward or my dragon will come forward and show me a different way to work with the energy or a different way to work with the ceremony. And I'll start doing that. And then a year, 2 years later, when I'm going through an initiation and training, then I get taught that physically by my teachers. And I'm like, too late, you're behind. So I very often receive first-hand information from spirit, and then kind of a confirmation from my actual teachers that what I've been doing is correct. So last year I was approached by some old friends and students saying, listen, I think it's time you start entering the community and teaching again, because for a couple of years I kind of went underground and solo and just work with people on recommendation, didn't put myself out there. And so when they started pushing me like, Rian, come, it's time. I was like, okay, so when do I come and I teach? You know, it's so many things that I've done throughout my life, but what will I be really passionate about? So Dragon was like, hello,
We
remember?
are here. It's you.
So I was like, wow, okay, that will be new. I've never taught my own stuff. I've taught Reiki, I've taught Munayki, I've taught Ashati. Everything is information that I received, easy to teach, simple. So I said to Dragon, okay, so what do I teach people if I teach you? And Dragon said,
Dragon language? No, I'm kidding. Because I'm sure there are some people who will say, what is that?
So it was a very simple answer from Dragon, saying, Rian, if you go back in time to when you started on this healing journey, what would you have wanted to know from the start? What would have made life simpler for you? What tools would have made it easier for you to work on other people from the beginning? I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if I had to note down, gosh, I wish I knew how to do cord cuttings back in the day. I wish I knew how to work with karma back in the day. I wish I knew how to balance people's masculine and feminine energies, etc. So I was like, okay, this looks like a nice path. So Elemental Dragon Rites came about being an empowerment, an initiation for people, awakening their own power within themselves
I think it's
through
time.
driving.
I'm sorry
And
to catch
then,
you, but it's very important to do this now. They came at the right time. They know better than us, by the way, on the spirit realm. It's really time to empower people, and it's time for you also to show your light and to show
absolutely,
up to each and every one and to say, hey, I'm here. I'm here. Come. I can help
absolutely,
you. I can empower you.
exactly. So it's taking some of the teachings in the course is specific to my path with Dragon and what Dragon has taught me, but it is also very influenced by the Andean tradition. Definitely, because that's my path. Honestly, that's what I've been
It's
walking
you.
for the last 13, 14 years. So a huge influence from the Andean shamanic path. But with how Dragon has taught me to work with it. So, for example, I teach a fire ceremony, which is one that we get taught at our second last initiation, but that's been adapted by Dragon into a similar ceremony, but done a bit differently. So I teach it that way. Then there's some influence from Chinadi exercise, which is what we get taught in our Reiki lineage, and that's a movement meditation, which again Dragon has adapted to work more specifically with the energy that we work with. So in the Elemental Dragon Rites, there's an activation that happens connected to lineage. So you are connected to my lineage and to Dragon's lineage. This activation activates within us the sacred flame, the sacred fire, our soul's energy. The sacred flame is the same fire that the dragon carries within them. So essentially, we learn to embody the energy of the dragon. We are also then connected to a personal dragon. Now, this personal dragon kind of becomes our guide, working with the
Yes.
energy. But just to note here that even though we get connected to a personal dragon, the connection that gets made is to dragon as a whole. So it's the connection to dragon consciousness. It is every single dragon throughout the cosmos that we get connected to. Although we get a connection to a specific guide, our personal dragon. And then this opens up a connection to cosmic energy. So we work with 3 types of energy in Elemental Dragon Rites. Our own sacred flame, dragon energy, and then cosmic energy. And that's the activation that gets made. And then I teach how to put this to practice, mostly for our own energetic development, so our own awareness development, healing ourselves, being more aware of our consciousness, developing our consciousness, increasing our sacred flame, our capacity as a container to hold light and energy so that we can be of service to humanity. And then also I teach hands-on healing techniques to be of service to other people, a distance healing technique. At the advanced class, we learn ceremony, we learn how to deal with karma and do cord cuttings. We learn channeling. So almost like a little first aid box to be a light worker, both from that personal spiritual development toolkit, but also how to work with other people. Karmic work, cord cuttings, channeling, like I mentioned already, balancing energies, flowing energies through the meridians, calming people down, lifting up their energy. There's various symbols that Dragon has. So yeah, quite a lot that gets pushed into a full day of training.
Great. You teach that in person and not online, correct? Or you
In
do
person.
also online course?
Unfortunately, I'm not doing it online. For me personally, I prefer to do initiations in person, the transmission of the initiation in person and not via distance. So for now, it's in person only here in Dubai.
Okay, sounds good. For people who are interested, detail below the video regarding Ryan courses and everything that concern what he just explained. I have a question, which I know already the answer, but for the audience, this is a question I want to ask. What is mainly the mission of the dragon's consciousness?
Okay. So when you think about a dragon, people often think fierce, strong, powerful, angry energy almost.
And they're
Uh,
lovely. I know. They're
exactly.
lovely.
And in a lot of cultures, dragons are dismissed, they are hunted and killed, they are evil. But in the majority of the world, actually, they are benevolent beings and they are respected and honored for their teachings and their energy. Dragon is an energy, a consciousness that is not physically with us on Earth, obviously. Okay. And
Really?
people will sometimes say, how can you believe in dragons? Well, how can you believe in angels? How can you believe in spirit guides, ascended masters, and you can't believe in a dragon? Essentially, they are very similar to the angels. They just live in a different vibrational frequency. In the mystical realm, together with the phoenix, the griffin, and all the other elemental beings that there are. There are tales and legends of dragons having been present on Earth millennia ago, but because of the persecution by humans, like we do, we interfere with everything, we want to kill everything, they decided to leave the physical 3D reality and move into a higher vibration. During this exodus from the physical, they went across the universe. They traveled through galaxies, different star systems, planets, every corner and expansion of creation. And they learned, they gathered knowledge from distant planets and civilizations. And now they've been called back to Earth for a couple of decades already. They've been coming back slowly. But I would say in the last 10 years, even more so. And what they bring back is two very important things. One is wisdom from all this knowledge that they've
Clearly.
accrued throughout the universe. But the main thing is actually love, compassion. And that's not maybe an energy that we would associate with the dragon right away, because it's like dragon, fire, fierce.
It's a misconception most of the time that people have, and I'm happy that you explained that because it demystifies the image that many people still have about the dragon.
Absolutely.
Me included when I was a child because of my parents, what they told me.
Exactly, bad reputation, right?
Yeah,
So they bring knowledge, wisdom, and this compassion, which compassion to me is loving motion. And it's the purest form of energy. And they're bringing this back to us and showing us a way of life that is in balance and of service to each other. Which is what they did back in the day. If you look at how they are praised in some of the cultures, that's exactly what they used to do. Teach us a way of life, help us with the elements, help us with our harvests. But unfortunately, we, just like with many other things, turned our back on it and tried to diminish it, get rid of it. Religion came and destroyed it. So yeah, it's a beautiful energy to work with. But what I really like about it is there are still dragons, and they do have that fire, and they do have that power.
yes.
They work with chaos. They're all about balancing the chaos.
Yes.
So when things are totally cuckoo in life, the dragon can just come and bring it straight back to center. Because they do have that power, they do have that force behind them. It's not a la-di-da energy. It is definitely a very powerful, direct energy that they work.
Oh, yes, clearly.
So what is beautiful about dragon is that even though they are working with the energy of love and compassion and wisdom, they are still dragons. And they have that power, they have that force, and they work with chaos. They balance chaos. So when things are absolutely chaotic and crazy, they can really bring it back to center in an instant because they do have that force. It's not a la-di-da energy and just all wishy-washy because it's all love. No, it is extremely direct and powerful.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, totally. I remember, I had one dragon. One time you worked with me at the moment when I joined shamanic initiation, and you saw one, if you remember. It's a long time ago. But at that time, I was not ready, I would say, to somehow embody that. And it's only later on through meditation, I was in a group meditation setup. And at my best surprise, I noticed that since a while I started to have more difficult clients. It was before COVID. When I say difficult is not the correct words. What I mean by that, it was more deep cases, more heavy somehow for people. And yes, I'm still a human. And at that time, I started to get much more guides coming to me because my type of work was evolving. Never I thought that would meet my dragon, my personal one. And when he came through that meditation, I've been shocked because my image was still, and even me, just imagine how we are programmed on a deep level by the parents, society. Because when he came to me and I saw his face, first I was like, whoa, what is that? And then I felt the energy, and he started to speak with me while I was doing this meditation in a group. And he showed me even little ones that were with him and all the group. Then I understood what was really the power of a dragon. And he said clearly, I'm coming now and you need me, because without me, they have certain work. You cannot do it because you will attract much more people with heavy cases. And without me, it's impossible to do it. This is why I'm coming. And that day, it was like, not the merging energy, but that's the moment when really I accepted, because I felt this loving energy and that power at the same time. And yes, it changed at that moment. I could feel a form of empowerment every time I had to work with someone which was a difficult case. Let's compare with before. I mean, because before it was a very heavy one. But he was there and he's still there with me. And since I started also to have much more, and I want to say to the audience, what you explained, yes, it's a reality. We are not crazy. We are not illuminated. And I'm not the only one to speak about that. I know many people, and I have even one of my clients, when she's doing regression with me, and her inner child is terrorized. The inner child is really scared, for example, because she has been also traumatized a lot. When we have to go deep and where she is afraid to go, she is telling me, I have a dragon coming to help. And for me, it's not surprising because I know. And I had few other clients also speaking about this. And I think they are coming also in a time, in a period, let's say this way, where we also need them, like you mentioned, because everything is chaotic since quite a long time on planet Earth.
Very true, very true. There is a lot of chaos, and they can definitely help us a lot with that, and that's why they are here now to connect with us as well.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, Ryan, would you like to say a last word to the audience, or a wish that you have? And how can we raise also the awareness? Because I know they have a lot of belief around this. Either it's shamanic tradition, or the dragon rites, or the dragon's spirit. Animal in spirit, in my case, it starts to be accepted, but it's still like, ugh. When I say to people, I will talk to your horse, dogs, cat, snake, bunny, whatever, okay, fine. And they're like, you. But when I say, okay, we can also talk to your animal who just passed away. You say the word spirit, and the dragon is a spirit. People are freaking out. And if you can explain how we can raise the awareness and demystify even more that subject.
That's a very difficult question to answer, Sabine. If we consider what we ourselves had to go through to get to our level of awareness and understanding and openness, imagine someone who is completely closed and blinded off. And unfortunately, we can't walk that path for them, but we can show them through our actions, through our light. We can show people that there is something more. And when we sit in our own power, when we shine our own light, automatically it will affect people around us. No matter how in the dark they are, the slightest bit of light will start guiding them. And it's not about telling them you're wrong, you're this, you're that, you're so heavy,
No,
you're acting
correct.
in your
Yeah.
shadow. No, because that's judgment. That's us then stepping into our own trauma again. It's just living that life and shining your light. And people will notice, and slowly, slowly they will ask questions. And slowly, slowly you give them like a baby,
Yeah.
one spoon, next spoon, and just let them open up and let their beliefs come out and let their questions come, because it's like that inquisitiveness of a child that needs to come back, where a child just accepts anything. You tell them the sky is pink, okay, the sky is pink. They don't question because they
Correct.
trust. They are so pure. And it is allowing people a safe space to just return to that inquisitiveness of a child. And we need to accept that we're not here to save everyone. That is very often a trap that we fall into as light workers, is that we
That's
think
right.
initially, oh, I need to save the world, I need to be this guru, I need to be... No. You need to take care of yourself. You need to work on your own consciousness, your own awareness, and through that, automatically, you will bring change. People will recognize something within you and they'll be attracted to you. But again, be careful, because they could also be attracted to your pain and your trauma. So you will always attract...
Yes, that's right. That's what we call bonding relationship through trauma. Yes.
So it's always a fine line to walk. But as long as you are in your own power, in your own awareness, you will automatically affect the world around you. And just through shining that light, people will start to open up. And if they don't, that's okay. It's fine. Don't fret about it. Don't try and force it. Don't send light bombs their way to try and wake them up.
Yes.
It's not
Get
a
you.
path to walk. Focus on you. You do you. Let them do them. And when the time is right, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And if we can just focus on ourselves in that way and be there for when that person appears and be there to guide them, that's it.
Beautifully said. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Yeah. And yeah, that's correct. Working on ourselves is the most important part, to be able to awaken others, because by changing our energies, especially when it's dull or heavy, especially for people who carries many trauma, raising your vibration is the most beautiful things that we can do. I mean, to plant a seed, even into people who are still into their darkness. Just by doing this, we already plant a seed. And just by doing that, we somehow awaken others by radiating our light, by raising our vibration. Automatically, they start to raise with us. And more the numbers is increasing. I'm speaking about terms of numbers of light workers, numbers of people who start, even if you are not a light worker, but you start to heal your ancestral lineage trauma, because we carry a lot too. You start to heal any trauma, any emotional shock in your childhood or adult age, automatically by removing that heavy energy, that blockages inside you. You can embody more light and you raise your vibration. And obviously, it's like the domino effect.
Absolutely. That's exactly how it works. And like you said, it's just about that one person at a time to cause the domino effect and our own consciousness and awareness.
Beautifully said. Ryan, would you like to say the last word before we end, or any wish you would have for our audience?
Yes, first of all, thank you again for having me on Beyond Belief. My wish for everyone out there is really simple. It is just that we can all find ourselves, that if we all just empower ourselves. And if we can just focus on that, then the world will be so much better, both for ourselves and for everyone around us. So my wish for you is to just be aware of yourself all the time and to live a beautiful life.
Thank you, Ryan. Beautifully said again. And thanks everyone for watching the video. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I especially enjoy hearing what people think, what their questions are, and future videos idea. Everything is welcome. So please make a comment and I will do my best to answer as soon as possible. And if you want me to bring a very specific subject to that podcast, please don't hesitate, comment below the video or send me a private message. Much love to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.